When it comes to creating online video, there are at least some bare minimums that you need when it comes to filming and producing your videos. One of the things that is obvious is that you need your camera equipment, but you also need computer hardware and software that's capable of handling the editing. So we'll get a little bit into that, and I have some recommendations for you. You also might want to consider photography and graphics, since these can add a little bit of polish to whatever video you're making. Let's start with the camera gear. I believe in having the right camera for the right situation. Sometimes you want something that's flexible on the go, and a point and shoot camera, especially if you're filming by yourself with a flip out screen, is extraordinarily practical. But when you're stationary and you know you're gonna have great audio and you're gonna have lighting equipment and all of those other things, then something that is a DSLR or mirrorless style camera is actually a really convenient thing to have. These typically have a flip out screen. I prefer if they also have a touch screen. And so I really think that this is the go-to for the majority of people that are doing practical video content, either around education, business, or a product or service. But if you're doing something that's a little bit more intense and robust, then you might need a truly professional film style camera, and those do get pricey, but for what they offer in terms of features and the ability to get great audio and to handle low light situations, they are a practical investment in the long term. For most people, this is the right answer. This is a DSLR style camera, and these are wildly affordable. For someone who, again, is on the go all the time, then this is probably the right option. And you could even accomplish quite a bit with just your smartphone. You just want to put into context having the right camera for the right situation, but it's usually the one that you have on you. Let's talk about the computer hardware that you need in order to do video editing, because this gets slightly complex and is probably the most intimidating aspect of video creation for some people. When it comes to computer hardware, it can be very intimidating for people who are not technically proficient, and that's perfectly fine. You don't need to be a computer scientist in order to do video editing or video production. Here are some simple things you need to keep in mind. Ultimately, when it comes to the computer hardware, the thing that trips people up the most is how quickly they can edit. And that's gonna come down to some things with the software as well. But when you're choosing your computer hardware, always try to make sure that you have more than enough hard drive space for these large video files that these cameras produce. You also want to make sure that you have somewhere between a minimum of 8 gigs of RAM, 16 is a sweet spot, but if you can have 32 or more, that's going to be better. This can get pricey, so if 8 is what you have to work with, that should be considered your bare minimum. When it comes to more technical things like CPU and GPU, my recommendations are that you either use the most high-end laptop you can for video editing and make sure that it has its own GPU, or what we call a video card. And if you're going to do it on a desktop, then whatever you can manage in terms of a video card is going to be better than not having one at all. This is going to mean that you have faster render times, which is going to mean that when you're trying to publish a video, when you're trying to get it out there into the world, that process is going to be a lot faster. It also means that when you are editing, it won't be as slow, and you won't have to worry about things like the playback not being in sync and things of that nature. So work with what you have, do the best you can, but if you can make an investment into your computer hardware, things will go much better for you and the process will be smoother. When it comes to monitors that you have to use when video editing, my preference is that you either use one very large monitor, preferably widescreen, or that you use a dual monitor setup. The reason is this will give you the opportunity to see what it is that you're creating, and you can go through playback as well as edit on your timeline in your video editing software. Choosing video editing software is something else that intimidates people when it comes to video editing and production and making this online content. Now, there are a lot of professional grade video editing software that you could use, such as Adobe Premiere Pro and Final Cut Pro. There are also free video editing softwares out there available, and a lot of things that are open source. The problem with some of these software are that they have a higher learning curve and less documentation. They also tend to be slower in some aspects of the video editing process. There are also affordable solutions that are somewhere in between with this, and they all have their own individual quirks. The most important thing is whatever software you're using, get comfortable with it. Learn to master the tools and get as fast as you can with using the software and feeling like you have a workflow that takes advantage of what its actual features are. There are some things that are going to be better in some situation than others, and while I could sit here and I could tell you why one video editing software is better than another or which ones I think you should choose, the reality is that you have to work within the budget that you have and with the technical constraints that are available to you, and also work with what you're comfortable with. The better you get at mastering the software that you have in front of you, the better every project you're going to do is going to be over time. So don't stress out too much about picking one software or the other just because an expert recommends it. Focus on mastering the tool that's right in front of you. Graphic design and photography is definitely a skill set that I have a lot of experience with, but you may not be prioritizing it, and I think that this could actually help add polish to your final product when it comes to a video. In certain platforms, you get the opportunity to use a thumbnail that represents the entire video, and so being able to design this intentionally with either good photography or a combination of photography and graphic design, typography, things of that nature, is going to be very helpful in communicating what your video is all about and getting people to click on it in the first place. I find that the bottleneck for a lot of people who want more views and distribution on their content is not that they haven't made great, thoughtful, engaging, or entertaining content, but that the packaging of that content is very poor. A little bit of photography and skill in that area goes a long way. And since you've already invested into decent camera equipment, it's really not that difficult to get good looking photos out of the same hardware. So I would recommend taking a little bit of time to learn some of the basics of photography. Learn not only how to master this tool when it comes to producing video, but learn the nuances and the differences between photography and video. Learn techniques like creating depth of field and subject isolation. Learn a little bit about photography and design when it comes to color and know how to balance that not only in your video production, but also in the design of your thumbnails or any assets that market your online video. This is radically important. By also learning graphic design techniques, you can use motion graphics and a little bit of animation to give your video an edge over anybody else who's just making a very nice polished video. You can have something that's much more interactive and engaging, and it doesn't have to be anything too complicated. Just being able to use simple, beautiful typography and have it fly in from the left or the right to add some context to your video, that's something that is a very subtle thing that you can add that will make a big difference to your audience. I've given you a lot of information to work with. Here's a little bit of extra homework that you really need to put into practice. One of the things that I will tell you is when you're trying to choose your hardware, your software, your cameras, that maybe you look to a friend who's already using these tools and you decide to get something that is either very similar or the same brand or model that they have because they can give you advice and they can help you out, and they also might have accessories that you can borrow and that you can take advantage of. So when you're going out there and you're trying to make one of these decisions, instead of just looking to experts and what the most expensive thing out there is, look to your own friends or family or coworkers or contemporaries, see what they have because they can help you make an informed buying decision and they can be there to support you afterward.